So, our amazing moderator who can do everything and helped make this whole event happen. Let's just have a round of applause for We're so grateful.
Okay.
So I pass it over.
Okay, thank you. We have some stellar questions here. And so they've, and these, everybody's has been able to review the questions, so I know you've all been thinking very deeply about this. And afterwards, we're gonna hopefully have some questions from the audience and time that way, okay? Okay, so everyone, looking at you all. Do you have a method that you use to learn about the properties of plant medicine besides research and books and the internet? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
And by the way, not everybody has to answer.
No, does anybody want to start with that one?
Yes.
Michael does.
All right, well, besides research, yeah, I mean, how far do I have to have this thing?
You were good, I think.
All right.
No, I can't.
You know, I have a particular relationship with the plants. I only work with plants that ask me to work with them. So, you know, I have a relationship with all the plants that are out there, and I walk the land every day and connect with them. But periodically, a new plant will suddenly get my attention, and you know, which means that usually any new plants that I'm working with are local. Most of the herbs I work with are local anyway. But yeah, so that just initiates a process of, you know, I walk the land every day. It's what I do. But so I'll always already have a relationship with the plant. But now it's like, okay, something happens and the plant gets my attention, and then it initiates a whole process of, yeah, the research part, you know, because that's an important piece as well. But a lot of time just spent being with the plant, meditating with the plant. Usually I'll, you know, because it's something growing on the landscape, I'll already have a knowledge of it, how it grows and where it grows and who pollinates it and what its different stages are through the cycle, and then of the seasons, and then the next step is I make a tincture of it and I take it for a while. I'm still doing the meditating and that, and experience what it's doing to me, and then I give it to a bunch of students. But they don't know what they're taking. So it's a process. I've done this for decades. I call it blind tincture testing. So it's like, okay, I've got a bunch of senior students. I give them each a bottle of tincture, don't tell them what it is, tell them how to take it, and they take it for a period of time, and then when they're done, we sit and have a discussion about what their experiences were, and that gives me new information. But it also, you know, it's important to me. Like, I would never give an herb to somebody that I haven't used myself. So, and I think that is really important for the students too, to have a direct experience of plants that they're learning about. And then it's starting to incorporate it into my, you know, by that point I've got a picture of this plant. And so now I start to use it in my practice, and I'll go, okay, well, I'm making this formula for so-and-so, and I'm going to put this herb in it, and I have a feeling this new plant would function the same as that plant in that formula for that person. And then I start using it that way and seeing, you know, what comes out of it at that stage. So it's like it's quite a quite an involved process. So now, as a practicing herbalist, I can do that. You know, I got students to experiment on. But yeah, and it's great. It's a new friend, a new relationship, and it just gets deeper from there.
Nice.
I suppose just spending time with plants is a great way to learn from them and observing them and watching how they move and how they're relating to the other plants around them. I guess I spend a lot of time with plants because I have a tree nursery and I'm a gardener and I'm just outside a lot. And so I think that those kinds of just spending time with plants, and then they tell you things every once in a while. You know, every once in a while they'll just kind of talk to me. I remember it was New England asters. They were like, "Psst, Blair." I was like, "I don't know." They're like, "Eat me." I'm like, "I don't know." I'm like, "I don't know anything about you." And they were like, "Blair." And then I was like, "Okay, I gotta do some research." So I started reading, and then they were like, all the things. So sometimes the plants kind of approach you too, and they're like, "Hey, like, you know," in Stephen's intuitive plant courses he's done in the past too, like wandering through with the peripheral vision and seeing who reaches out to you, and then, you know, spending time with them, and sometimes they have, you know, special messages for you. And then, of course, if I meet a plant that I want to learn about, and I don't want to sit down and hit the books or approach it that way, I'll make an offering and ask them to come to my dream life and speak to me and dream. And sometimes they do. They'll come at night and say, "This is what I'm for." And so I guess there's these other, you know, ways of asking them to be your teacher personally, and say, "Will you be my teacher? Will you tell me, this is who I am, this is why I'm here, this is what I'm, you know, looking for. I'm looking to learn from you." And then sometimes they're into it. They're like, "Yes, I would like to tell you things," and they'll send you little messages in your sleep. Those are some ways.
Okay, so yes, wonderful. And so and something to add to that, to like the plants literally call out to you and say, "I want to have a relationship with you." And medicine is relationship. Everything is relationship. So when someone offers something, so what I would do is I may do a dream journey. So that's like going into the spirit world and speaking directly to the spirit of the plant. And I imagine that a lot of what we know about plants came from that kind of spiritual interactions, speaking with them directly, because they speak to you and they're speaking all the time. So that's what I would do to add to what everyone else is saying.
Thank you. I guess what I'm gonna add to all of these methods that I think is it would maybe ring true for everybody here as well is engaging with the physical characteristics of the plants as they show you. So you can work with the like for me, the smell is generally the first thing, and I wonder if, you know, people talk about you know, we have these different like clairvoyance or clairaudience and then clairolfactance, you know, using your sense of smell. It doesn't seem to be as common, but I feel like if I have a clair, that's probably what it is mostly. So I feel like I can smell plants sometimes, even if I'm not right there in front of them. Occasionally too, I can smell plants when they're really not there, and it's like they are showing up and kind of suggesting to me, "Hey, think of me." And also, you know, actually physically engaging with the plants, smelling them. I want to always smell them, and I like to taste them too. And of course, your taste and smell are really associated. But then also the feeling on your tongue. And if you're not feeling confident, like you want to taste them because you know nothing about them, or they might, whatever, be toxic or something. Then just feeling them, you know, and getting a sense of, is this a thick, juicy leaf? Is this a really thin and spindly kind of thing? And looking at how it's engaging with its environment. And we know from certain plants already in terms of like well-known medicinal properties, and then we see how they grow, the way that the plant is growing, its ecology and the way it's adapting to the environment is showing us some of its properties. For example, I often think of mullein, and it grows on dry, rocky soil, and it'll grow in abundance in disturbed places where there used to be a lot of other plants that were growing and they got disturbed. And the mullein comes in as like first aid on the land, and it brings moisture and holds moisture to those dry, hard areas. And that is kind of a part of the essence of what I feel that mullein does. So in your body, you have tight, dry things, you have tight, dry chest, you have digestion that's like, not moving or something like this. The mullein might help to get that fluid engaged with the tissues and allow it to move, and it does the same thing with the land. So I'm looking at that a lot also to understand about the properties of the plants.
Yeah, nice. I mean, yeah, I've been teaching a course on intuitive healing and intuitive plant use for about 20 years. So it's a day-long protocol to teach people the protocol to approach the plants. So I can't elaborate to that degree. There's little pieces of it that people have given here. But the one thing I think maybe
Bring the mic up.
Oh, sorry. The one thing I'd say that just kind of to add, and maybe a little bit different perspective is, us two-leggeds with these things, we're fucking terrifying to plants and nature. All of nature is pretty much terrified of us. I mean, there's a reason this is 95% women, less terrified of you. So, the whole thing is in your approach. This is where it all happens, is in the approach to the plant. I want to know about you. Who are you? I have a right to know about you. So, you get the idea? Like, that's kind of what we look like to the plants. Oh, sorry. That's what we look like to the plants, right? So just to kind of hold back on that, think about your body posture as you approach the plant. Approach them very slowly. Bow down to them before you even know them because they've called you over. Yeah? You lay out your offerings. You do all that stuff. And then, again, I have all these steps in approaching the plant. So then, in the end, I would say, just to kind of jump over to where Michael was there, I go as far as I can before looking in the books. Keep going, days, weeks, whatever, till you feel like, okay, I think I understand this plant. Then go to the books. And it is incredibly affirming. That's when herbal books are useful to me. I never look up a plant. It's only through this process that I get it, and it's incredibly affirming, when you can feel these things. And but it's funny because I've had a lot of students who have gone through Michael and just known Michael for a long time, and I thought, that sneaky bugger, he's getting his students to do all this research.
Good, actually. That's a good technique.
Right away I could see that, man.
Proofing tinctures on the students. Love it. Okay, well, thank you for those very wonderful, thorough answers, everyone. That was excellent. Okay, let's see. Okay, we have a picture with another one. Is there an herb you have been working with abundantly over the past 5 years, and which one and why? So we're singling things out here. And if there's a partnership, I get it. Like sometimes, they come in tandem and they need to each other. So, okay. Anybody want to take that one on? Blair? Yes.
I guess this is a really tricky question because there's so many plants that you end up spending time with, but I do feel like the vervains are herbs that I spent a lot of time with, and the white vervain actually kind of follows me around. so it's kind of everywhere I go. It's sort of like, oh, Blair's been here. I'm going to start growing there. So it's sort of one of these ones that has kind of decided it's working with me, it mainly in my own body, not in other people's bodies, but it kind of likes to show up and remind me of, kind of vervain is seen as this hyper-organizational, like helping to deal with OCD and overthinking, and white vervain's very erratic and more for free flow, blown in the wind kind of people like myself, and it's kind of reminding me to like get more organized, put your priorities straight. And also I think vervain has a lot to speak to about grief in general, like this connection to deep grief and working through and processing sadness and things that we're carrying, sometimes ancestrally, but also in our own personal life, like working with loss and working with sorrow. And even mythologically, vervain is the tears of Isis mourning her departed lover and grieving his loss. So it's like, this manifestation of the goddess in mourning. And I feel like that energy of working through and processing and loss has really been very present in my life. So I feel a lot of gratitude for the land for bringing that medicine to me and consistently being like, here I am supporting you, here I am again supporting you. So and yeah, blue vervain, just such a wonderful helper, but the white vervain too. So I'm just so grateful for both of them, and they're just so, you can use them for basically anything, like sadness, pain, fevers, colds, coughs. They're just so, stomach aches, everything. They're just always ready for everything. So I just love them very much, and they've been working with me and I've been working with them.
I'm not gonna comment, because it doesn't work that way for me, right? And there's using
Actually,
lots of plants all the time, and there's nothing that really stands
speak to
out.
that. Speak to that.
Speak
That's
to
a good
that.
idea. Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to. You can go watch.
I mean, I have plants I use more than other plants, often because they're more present, more gentle, because we tend to go more to I personally tend to go more to the more gentle plants most of the time and only use the stronger ones when they're really needed. But I also have certain special plant teacher helpers that I work with the most, but it's hard to explain that because it has to do with one layer of the way I practice involves a medicine wheel, and so I have sort of 4 key plants that are actually in every single medicine, but it's a different sort of, it's not like they're, I still work with many plants all the time, so there's none that particularly stand out. Yeah, right now it's that, right?
Can you share a little bit about the medicine wheel and potentially the plants that live in there? Or are they specific to you as a practitioner, or would you say they are?
They are. The medicine of practice comes from the land, and one of the teachings that was given to me was there's a couple of different layers to it, but one of them is a medicine wheel. So when I'm practicing, I'm actually moving people through the medicine wheel. And I have 4 chief plant helpers in the 4 cardinal directions. I can say what they are, but I'm not saying this is generic, right? This is how they've come to me. For me, it's white cedar in the east, tobacco in the south, buffalo sage in the west, and white pine in the north. And those plants they are key. They hold the wheel. And so they're kind of almost in, you might say, homeopathic doses in every medicine that I make. They have to be. They're holding the wheel. But But, but then there's a lot of other layers to it too. So I could say those plants are particularly important to me because they're teachers and represent in the teachings of those 4 directions, and what they teach me infuses how I work with all the other plants.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
Okay, so for me, like plants that I would use, it's related to the movement of the cycles of the world. Like it's a movement of the seasons, the movement of emotions. So nothing is static. It's always a question that you receive an answer to. So it's not that there's just anything in particular, but there's the world and life happening all the time. And so the beauty of herbalism, the beauty of it is that it's fluid. That it responds to what you need in this moment. And we know, like, we're not kittens here. We've lived a long life, right? We've lived a life, and we know that life is like this, and you're never the same thing and static. And that's the beauty and the complexity, like vervain, the complexity of it. It's not just one thing, but it speaks to where you're at in the moment, and that comes forward, right? So that's like, it's like life is speaking to you when you're responding to the plants in that way. So that's fluid, right? And then on the other hand, I too have plants that I work with that are my teachers, and they are always there, right? And they help me hear, they help me get other medicine. And so, and they inform me, they teach me they teach me to learn how to do what I do better and better in relationship to existence, like this life is a river and it's flowing and it's never the same, but yet there is a pattern. So the plants are moving, they understand this there's a static and yet there's also movement. So as a healer, you are listening to that movement, the sacred patterns of existence. And these plants, there's so a multitude of things that they can speak to you where you're at in this moment. So it's both yes and no, is what I'd have to say.
Yes and no. To which,
Yes
is
and
there
no
any
question.
plant that?
Yes and no is a universal answer.
But I appreciate what you have to say. And I'm gonna come back to a plant that has shown up, although I think all of this is relevant, and it's kind of asking, well, is there a plant just shown up in abundance for you, like recently? It can be kind of like, yeah, well, what's your favorite plant, or who's your favorite child, or that kind of thing, right?
That's definitely
Exactly. So mostly I just figured, okay, well, whatever comes up for anybody in the moment, because that was a question I put out there. So so what comes to mind for me when asked that question is cleavers. And that did not used to grow on the land here, and about 4 or 5 years ago it started to show up, and there was a bit of a change in the ecosystem. Just right here outside the door there was a big tree limb that fell, and we didn't have we weren't able to deal with it for quite a while, so it was like just on the ground with a bunch of branches and really changed that area of ground. And then eventually when it got cleared out, I saw that the cleavers had moved in. And so when plants start, one thing is when plants start growing around you, you pay attention, and I always really encourage that. The other thing is that for me, cleavers, I already really wanted to work with, and I would go other places off of this property to find it so I could harvest it, so I could work with it. And then, so when it showed up, it was like, yippee, like, wow, the cleavers have arrived, okay, welcome. Well, then, you know, I tried to transplant them and move them around a little bit, and then I wasn't sure whether anything worked. But then this year, as I was really cleaning up different areas of this property, I found like 4 or 5 different patches of cleavers that definitely were not there before. So to me, the cleavers were saying, yeah, like, you need, you know, we need to be here for you, and you need to work with us. I do work with a decent amount, especially recently, decent amount of cancer patients where I am going to bring cleavers often into that protocol as a generally really safe and really supportive kind of in the background process, whether you're going through a conventional treatment, a medical treatment or not. And really, because cleavers are a detoxifier, they are generally going to just stimulate the clearance through the whole system, particularly through the lymphatics, but also like through the gut and to a certain extent through the lungs. Like, they're just supporting the clearance of anything that needs to go in sort of tandem with your body, not forcing it. And I think that detoxification is something that all of us are needing at this time, and there's been a bit of reference to it. I think maybe Michael will be talking about it a little later this afternoon too. So having these herbs that support detox in general in the background in a safe way, you know, these alternatives as we call them, that to a certain extent bring nutrients, although I don't know, cleavers, they're really flimsy and little, and they're not like the strong nutritives like a nettle or something. They are more cleansing. But even that property of, if you know cleavers, you know, like, you know, they just bend and they, you know, you can pull the roots out like nothing. They have these little tiny roots. They're very much, it's like they have a substance like that's stronger when they're alive, when they're in their peak, and then they just disappear. And it's like that, it's a bit of a signature to me of, okay, there's this thing moving through and it's gone. It's clear, you know, there's no holding on to stuff. It's very much about like mutability, letting stuff go. So I work with them a lot, and then I actually was taking cleavers for quite a while myself this past winter and spring, because I went through a period of just this flu, whatever thing that took me down. And I came back up, and then I decided to run this event, so that was great. But I continued to take the cleavers for some time afterwards, because I had this one stuck lymph gland that just wouldn't move. And I think that it was a bit of a teaching to me that sometimes things really just take time, and especially as you get older, like, things can take longer to shift, and you have to just stick with it, and you can do that in a really gentle way and live your life the way you normally do, and just have that there. And so that's been a really big one. Thank you, cleavers.
Cleavers is a thing, eh? There's something important about cleavers medicine at this time. In the GTA, in the last 10 years, it's gone nuts up all the river valleys. It's just covered in it. It wasn't there before. And it's just like everywhere now.
Interesting.
I will add to that last winter I was in New Orleans for the first time, and there was cleavers growing everywhere. I don't know if that's always the case, if anyone's hung out in New Orleans and you know cleavers and you can speak to that, but I was really blown away by the cleavers, and it was really exciting because it was there in like February or March, and so we didn't have anything like that going on here, and there was cleavers going into flower in the ditches, in the edges of the sidewalks, all over the city.
I
Yeah.
didn't even know it went that far south.
Oh yeah, it goes that far south. So,
Or south, as they would say.
Just a couple more little cleavers thing. Huge plant for me, huge. And through kind of, my administering of it and talking about it and stuff, I found out for Blair, not her plant, and extremely cooling. which
She doesn't eat that.
I didn't really think of that so much with cleavers, but Blair helped me kind of, I keep that in mind now when I'm giving it to people. So I can, if they're cold type, then I'm red roots. I shift over the other direction. The other thing I'm just curious about is for lymphatic cancer. Do you use it?
For sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I've had my doubts just about that. I also use it with cancer patients. And,
Why would you have doubts about that?
just the spreading of the
The cancer?
cancer.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's detoxing.
Cool.
It's working with the body's intelligence, the body's ability to clear out what needs to leave. And I have faith in the intelligence of cleavers to do that.
Nice. Yeah. I continued to use it, but I did have some doubts about it, so just curious what other people thought. Yeah, what just presented to me was chickweed. And I so underestimated this plant. You know, I've been in my gardens, 10, 20 years, whatever, but I've really got onto it in the last 10 kind of thing. And it's kind of like one of these plants that just seems so kind of wimpy and watery, and it's like, yeah, what could it do, right? But incredibly cooling, nutritive, and chelating. Like it really pulls stuff out. And one of the things that I learned that in a very physical way was with deeply embedded slivers. The only thing that will get them out is chickweed. Chickweed poultices, it's incredible. Yeah. So I think that kind of applies internally too. It's chelating, it's pulling in all sorts of toxins. Yeah.
Yeah, nice, thank you, thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so our next question, Michael, you've already been touching on some of this, so we will see. Okay, do you have a method of getting to the essence of someone's health issue if they come to see you for herbal support? And we're looking for, I know, it sounds like a very big topic, so we're looking for a little bit of concise sort of answer there, but try your best. I can see, Blair, you're already thinking. Do you want to go?
I'm gonna pass on this one. Actually.
You're passing? Okay.
Yeah,
So I don't let people off easily. You probably noticed this. Yeah. So what about that particular question would make you want to pass?
I just don't see clients. I just hang out with plants. So I don't know. It's more like I'm not really working with people that, except for myself and friends and family.
Right.
So
Although I did
that...
see somebody today that you were engaging with, let's say. I don't have to point anybody out. But there was somebody you were engaging with. And I was listening to you provide some suggestions. And yeah, anyways, okay. So I think I'm going to let her think about that, possibly circle back. Michael, we've heard from you on this. Would you like to elaborate further on, and is there more to the story beyond the medicine wheel for you that you would like to share with everyone?
I could share a little bit, but
Yeah.
It's such a big
Somebody had a question? No. Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's right. You guys are doing great. We're putting you on the spot here, so you're doing great.
So what was the question again?
Okay, so we're looking at, getting to the essence of somebody's health problem. Where, do you have a particular method? And maybe you don't, and you can even speak a little bit to that and why you wouldn't find that particular question to be something you would consider.
Yeah, that's a complicated one. I don't do some of the types of assessments, for instance, that they might do in medical herbalist programs. I do more like a homeopathic case taking where I'm getting every little detail about the person's health situation and history and everything like that. And I do use medical reports, blood tests, and other things, like any bit of information that I can get. But the system I use is quite Well, it takes me 3.5 years to teach it to people.
Okay.
Right? I
Not
give them
getting
all,
a summary
I give them
in 3.5 minutes.
all of the basics, and then it's like, okay, now you've got all this information, and you've been doing this. Here's how you organize it, and it's a multi-layered thing. It involves. There's a physiological element to it, where I tend to. There's certain organs and organ systems I work on in everybody, because they always need help. And without those being in balance, you can't heal. And they're just always out of balance just because of the world we live in and the lifestyle that we live. So there's and I move them through in a particular order. I found that it's better to start here and work from there. That's one piece. Then there's the medicine wheel piece, which is a more spiritual thing, you could say. Then there's the intuitive thing. I mean, there's that. And then, that first formula that I give to people is so critical, because how they respond to it, the plants teach me a lot more about what I actually learn more from how they respond to that first formula than the entire case taking. It's like what the plants are doing, what they're noticing, what's improving at what rate, and what isn't improving, and it just gives me all of this feedback of the inner workings of of what's going on, and then you take it from there, and then each time then you tweak it, and I'm moving them through 2 layers of a system. And then, but constantly tweaking it. What is their body telling me each time I tweak the formula? And just constant interplay. And there's a huge, there's the science of it, and there's the art, and the art is much more intuitive, and it comes out of, well, they both come out of being in deep relationship with the plants, really. One is the more intellectual understanding, properties, blah blah blah, and the other is something deeper, and they all, and it's a big fat mystery.
Beautiful, beautiful. And can I circle back to the physiology? You say that there's organ systems that you're working with everyone, just because I think it is a very important piece of what we're doing here in the world today. Is there something, where are you going first in general, if you may? If you can
I'm going to the gut first.
Yeah, gut first. Okay, gut first.
Right? Now that doesn't mean I'm only treating their gut. I mean, I'm always, addressing all the different layers, but there's an emphasis on the gut. The gut is so critical. The microbiome, the fact that they're able to digest and assimilate nutrients. You can't heal anything if you're not digesting and assimilating nutrients, right? And then I go to circulation, because you've got to be able to move things in and out of the body, right? And most people are deficient in circulation and in gut health, right? We aren't active enough. We spend too much time sitting. We're tight in our body, right? And then I usually giving the cat out of the bag.
Well, that's okay, but
Just go ahead, just do it.
Then I'll go through usually at that point, I mean, it's building all the way through, but at that point I'll go into some very heavy detox. I mean, you're starting that right from the beginning. I mean, you've got bitters in your digestive formulas that are working on the liver, and that circulation, is so critical to detoxification. I'll be talking more about that later, but lymphatic and blood flow, really critical, to get nutrients into the cells, to get toxins out. And then I go what I call the integration phase, working on the nervous and endocrine systems that control and integrate the whole thing. And then I cycle back, layer upon layer. If I'm treating somebody who's got long-term chronic illnesses, I mean, sometimes the treatment's going to take many years, and so we we got there. Now we go back through the medicine wheel and back through the whole thing and take it to the next level, right? So it's But I mean, that is a, anybody here know what Cole's notes are?
Yeah.
That is the super condensed, summarized version, but.
That's excellent. And so everybody knows, there'll be a little bit more this afternoon too.
Well, at least on one piece of it.
Yeah, what I'm gonna say is like herbalism comes from your heart, from your soul, and every herbalist has their own way of moving with everyone, and it is a spiritual practice, it is an art practice, and that's why we've been drawn to this to begin with, because it speaks to the creative passion, the creator within us. So all these principles are brilliant, and we each have to have our own relationship with our medicine. I mean, it's moving through us, like we are the conduit of it. We carry it, right? And so everything is beautiful, and the words from these herbalists, I mean, their way of being with it is just so enlivening. It's like it brings like tears to my eyes just to hear these beautiful people who have heard this call. It's not an easy thing to be a herbalist. It's not an easy thing to be with people who are ill. It's like you are asking, you are saying, if I take you on, then I am taking you on, and I will not abandon you, right? So, so it's like to hear these people who have been courageous, and the way that they approach it is just, it's just like a lyrical poem, and in my heart it's just like, oh my God, I love you, and I'm so grateful, these wise beings, right? And so, and I it's like what I would have to add to this question. These questions are awesome, and Tamara, like just hearing her speak about her medicine, it's just like, oh my gosh, wow. And is that what I like to do is I like to listen to someone, and you can hear what they need in what they're saying, because they know. It's different than like an allopathic approach, like yours, a series of symptoms and illnesses, and like you're a car on a hoist, and you're going to change your carburetor or something because it's off. That's like kind of like an allopathic way, and it's not it's not the way that I like approach life at all. But instead, I have learned, and also being someone who has had my own share of illnesses or whatever, and not being hurt, because you are wise, because you are the one who is in deep relationship, the minutia of your experience and all the story that is behind it. And so I like to listen, because I that's how I would learn. Oh, thank you for telling me. I don't need to like prize it. Like my job is guided questions, open spaces, and then listening, and then I hear between those sentences, I heard something that might, whoop, and it's like, tell me about that, and then it's like, and you don't have to be like, it's like, because the story wants to be told, because someone is coming here with with a tenderness, a vulnerability, right? And it's got a voice that it wants to speak, right? And so that's how I approach my clients. Yeah.
So much of what you said just really rings true for me, and it's listening. And listening, the proverbial listening, like taking in everything that you're taking in with your senses, and then, the things that you really notice, certain things that really stand out to you, the way that somebody is carrying themselves. Sometimes they say a word or a phrase, and I write that down, because that just encompasses the whole thing. That is your story right there. You said it. Thank you. I'm going to write that down. It's amazing when you tune into that. And I think as Monica was talking, it was reminding me of this exercise that I learned years ago. It was actually at a dance workshop, because I love dance and movement. And I was at this really amazing dance workshop for a week at it was like a contact improv and all kinds of other things on Liskidi Island in BC. It was dreamy. Anyways, the people who one of the exercises that they offered was they called it "Tell me more about this." And what you did was, in order to pick up on the energy more of that's present in the situation that you're with, you would really focus on that, and you would work in partners. And one person would, because it was dance and movement, they would be up and they would be moving, but they would be talking too. And they would just tell us, you could talk about whatever. Like, this morning I woke up and I was sleeping in a tent and it was a little bit wet, and then I realized where I was. Oh, I'm camped here. Okay. And so they're just moving as they're talking, and the other person is listening, and they are listening on every level, and they're looking for, where is the energy? Where is there a little boost in energy in the words, in the movement as the person is engaging? And when they find it, they interrupt the person and they say, "Tell me more about that." So it's like, I was waking up and I was, and then I felt the ground underneath me, and tell me more about that. How did the ground feel underneath you, for example, and then get them to follow that trajectory and keep going. And then when you find another interruption in the energy, another energy thing, you stop it again and say, "Tell me more about that." And you can get to the essence of it. I took that, and a few years ago I was involved in another little herb gathering like this, where we were focusing on clinical herbalism, helping people to get to the get clinical skills, but it was like a herb camp, and the workshop that I ran was about this. We ran this exercise, so everybody got in partners and kind of got to practicing that. So I loved that. It really touched me, that and it really stayed with me, and I think that actually informed part of how I work with people. I am just looking for that energy, and then I'm really taking note of that, and then and then sometimes I think, I have another question. It's not like I'm interrupting them and saying, "Tell me more about that," because it's not that kind of exercise, and I really want to hold space for people to just feel like they can express whatever they need to express. But I write down, I need to ask them more about this, right? And sometimes there are things where you feel that there's an energy, and there's something that's not being talked about, that there's an energy there. And that's significant that it's not being talked about. And it might not even be that appropriate to be asking about it until a certain point, because this is a serious key point in the whole thing. And talking about it is part of the issue. And how do I get around to that? How do we get to the point where we can soften certain things and be able to access that? And then, another tool that I use just quickly is that, because I also work with astrology and medical astrology to a certain extent. And so if I have the proper information, and if I'm working with somebody who's open to it, even if they're not, I will often refer to their chart if I have the information. But if they're open to it, I'll share with what I pick up from what I get from that. Because in a nutshell, I think the thing with working with the astrology is that it's a story. It's telling a story of the person's life and experience. And I can extract certain parts from that and reflect that back to them in a way where we can look at this map of their existence, and say, look, this is this is what I'm seeing, and I can see it here. And sometimes that's very validating for them, and it helps them to get to, and then they can elaborate sometimes for me with more information, or more like when I am pointing out things on their chart, and they'll say, yes, they feel the energy there of what I'm expressing, and they'll elaborate on it. And then they know the essence more of what they're dealing with. Because when you hear that, you know it, and then you know what you need to do, or what's been getting in the way of your healing, etc. And whether it's something really physical or more esoteric, often it's both, and they ride together. So yeah, that's how what I have to add to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I thank you, Monica and Tamara. I very much along the same lines as you two. I guess what else can I add that's useful for folks here? Maybe just if they're new to herbalism, they come to you, they're just going to talk about their ailments. So one of those questions that I ask always is, what was going on in your life when this started to happen? Right? That's a great lead in, and incredible amounts of information. And so like you two, like I'm untrained, so I don't have a protocol, like a clinical protocol for taking stuff in. I am 100% intuitive. So I feel already what you need. The plants present themselves to me. I don't have to think about it or anything. Right? I've been doing this so long. In fact, even if you're not asking me, the plants present themselves for you as I talk to you. Right? So, then I'm looking for confirmations. Right? So then I do a little bit of digging and don't know much about astrology, but I'm looking for the confirmation of 3. So I already think something, and then I start digging a little bit around for it to try to find confirmations. And probably they give you the second one for sure, just in what they're talking about. So, yeah. Oh, another just general thing that it took me quite a few years to figure out, but then once I got it, it's almost 100%. So if people are emotionally sensitive, you hardly have to give them a dose, right? And that's true with children and stuff too. If people are not, then out comes the 2x4.
Add something.
right there.
The Taurus
Oh, wait.
comes out with the 3x4.
Taurus dragon.
The last thing that I said is actually the most important thing. The part about the mystery. For me, healing is a very mysterious process. And I've also learned that I don't have to know. Plants are very powerful healing beings. So, and I've spent, a huge part of my life is spent cultivating relationship with them on many different levels. So when the plants, it's like everybody's unique. So, even though I said I'm using a certain system, where I start or how it looks is different for every single person. But there's an element of, if the plants present themselves to me as being important for that person at that time, I don't necessarily have to know why. When I make a formula for people, the last part of it, there's all this relationship with these plants and that person that goes up to that point. But here I'm making a formula where the last pieces, I'm sitting at my altar and I'm making tobacco offerings to the spirits of the plants that are in that formula and saying, please give that person what they need. And they, things happen that I'm not even aware of, and I don't need to be aware of it. It's a very mysterious thing. You can't put it all into words. It's just.
Blair? Yeah, Blair, you can say
I guess I was just thinking about, I just like to get people playing. And playing with the plants and playing with their own energy and what's moving in them. And I guess I was just realizing that maybe that's, where can you find play in assessing someone? Like what is the parts of a person that has been kind of neglected and looking for that, and then, seeing where you can get movement happening in one way or another with plants or with other elements as well. If singing, dancing, color, playing, where is the play? So I guess trying to find that in people and figuring out, how the healing wants to move through their body. And it might, sometimes it's with plants and sometimes it's with movement and song, and relationship is definitely a big one. You know, how can you help, or how can I help other people find, you know, their friends that they're going to be able to go out into the environment and find whenever they need, you know, support. They're, you know, the friends are out there all the time wanting to help us. And so not necessarily like doing a big assessment, but like sort of, you know, trying to find these inroads into play.
Beautiful, thank you. So we have,
My phone died. Anybody have the time?
Yeah, it's like just 7 after 10.
Oh, we have lots of
We got-
time.
Yeah,
We're
we're going to 10:40.
great. We're going to
Yes,
10:40. I have some other questions, but is there anybody in the audience who'd like to ask a question? And you see the questions we're asking. So we're not talking about personal health issues or something like that. So something really along the lines of maybe being an herbalist kind of idea. You do. You have a question? You want to stand up?
Yeah, sure.
And can you project well? Or do you want to come up?
No, I can speak from here, that's right.
Repeat his question.
So there's this interplay between like, for thousands and thousands of years, humans have like cultivated plants for their uses. And there's this idea that plants have actually cultivated humans to, and I just want to talk a little bit about that. So there are, the physical properties that are intuitive via observation, like from like maybe I'd have like for like a newer person getting into this, there is like, you can look at like a pitch on a tree and like intuitively say that that's sticky and that might be good for like waterproofing, or like a cedar being in a water for a very long time, that's intuitive to rot resistance. But there might be some like confirmation biases with like the idea of the doctrine of signature, where people will be like, well, if this has a heart-shaped leaf, for example, it must be good for like the cardiopulmonary system because of that sort of confirmation bias. My question is for like people who may be a bit more skeptical, not like myself, but maybe just other people. What is like the most intuitive sort of association with a feel, sight, not like taste, but maybe as well as a smell that can be directly linked to like a cause and effect in terms of, and like the first thing that comes like a smelling salt. Like a smelling salt, although it's not plant, you can really, if you just smell it, then you can like feel your like respiratory system sort of open up to like accept more oxygen in. So I was just to like sort of talk to other people about like how maybe plants have cultivated us.
Yes.
What would be a very good example?
Right. Wow. Okay, we could take about a week on that one. Excellent. Thank you so much for opening up that can of worms. So I'm going to attempt to summarize. What we're getting here is the doctrine of signatures, and actually speaking to people who are new to herbalism, new to this world that potentially we haven't just been cultivating the plants, but and I would say the earth has been cultivating us, and therefore the plants as the expression of earth has been cultivating us as well. So how can we make this tie for people who have never really engaged in that way, the plants before, with some concrete examples? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I did enjoy a lot of the examples, like for example, the mullein and like the disturbed. And
Yes,
the
yes,
and
right.
fire, and then it's
And it's really lovely when they kind of fall into that category of, you can really see this.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you have to have so much pre-knowledge to like understand that there is all these intuitive properties to then, I guess, more or less correctly link what they're doing in that particular site condition to what they can do potentially internally or externally applied, based on what they're doing in that site condition.
Right.
And I think there are examples, but it's not as easy as like that pitch has this insect stuck in it, so it must be good for waterproofing. Like, it's a little bit more of a leap to associate health outcome, or not health outcomes, but like improvements in particular ailments.
Yes, I can see.
yeah.
I can see the. Yeah, I can see that. Tamara, would you? I know you're looking at me. I just. You speak to the doctor of signatures quite a bit. Would you have an answer to what he's saying?
I guess, yeah, eventually all the words get me a little bit lost. So I'm like, what exactly? How do you, what I understand from what the question is how do you share ideas around signatures of plants that are telling you by how they look, feel, smell, where they grow, about their healing properties to people who know nothing about this and might even think it's kind of weird and flaky or something like that? How do you express it that way? Am I?
Well, I was actually just sort of like maybe one particular example of, like, I enjoyed the story about possibly the pine pitch and the split foot, and how that was like, we got to stitch together, and this is really sticky, and
Right.
that will hold it temporarily. That was an example of an intuitive visual that's like, okay, this will close it. But is there, like, I read on this article about this orangutan in like Borneo forest using Linnea to heal a like face cut it got, and it did heal it quite well. And how did it, like, it just seems like either trial and error, or they are talking to
Right,
you, right?
right. Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the mystery, because I think that is really what we're getting to here, right? Like, this is not black and white stuff. This is, we don't have, like, this is why it's worthy of a panel discussion that could really go on and on, right? So many things that we could elaborate on here. And it is a process, yes, that takes time. I mean, there's a certain amount of marrying the knowledge that you might have gotten through an education, or that you've acquired through your experience in working with the plants, and then seeing something about how they're expressing themselves and how they grow that might not have been apparent to you at first, and then it really shows up for you. And how do you get into that more? I think going back to the beginning, where pretty much everyone was touching on sitting with the plants, being still, being open to them, paying attention to what's showing up for you with them, like the things that you're really noticing. Getting out of your head, I think we're all that's kind of a theme here. We're representing the other aspects outside of the cerebral around working with plants and thinking about them in that way. And then that comes in a little later. And it's not like, we don't know for sure that because it looks this way, it means that, we only know that from our experience, whether it's going to be medicine for this or that. But I think what happens, I will say, with visible signatures, there are some people who really tune into that, and it's particularly people that are artists, visual artists, that use their eye. They really pick up on things. They see signatures. It's like, this is part of how they work. So I always find, like, in my classes, whenever I have artists, I'm always really trying to get them to engage with the signatures, because I know they're gonna read into it more. They're gonna teach me about some of that. And for me, I'm not really a visual artist. I struggle with that. So there's something about the visual that will occasionally really show itself to me. And that has more to do with my relationship with that plant as a living being, and I'm a living being, and we're having this energy exchange, rather than the signature being like a classic signature or whatever. And then, you know, I would also I just want to mention that I think a big piece that informed my learning to work with plants in this way was the Spirit of Herbs with Michael. And while he's still doing it, I really encourage anybody who wants to get involved in that to go and spend 5 days where you go deep into sitting with a plant. And the space is held for you to do it, and there are some guided kind of exercises that help you to get into it so that you can pick up on some of the nuances that the plants are showing you. And it can be any kind of signature, but you're just getting into a space where you can perceive that more and trust it. Because the trust is the biggest piece. And I think that for us humans in this day and age, that's a thing that has been lost. We don't acknowledge how intelligent we are on this level of intuition and engagement with life. We pick up these things and we disregard them like they're not that important, really. Kind of in the same way, like, you know, like Stephen was talking about, you come to the plant and you're all, arr, 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 you know, instead of looking at it like this is a living being and it is, you know, needs to be respected, and then it will engage with you more. You too are this sensitive living being. There is a part of you that's always telling you, it's whispering this and that, and it's just tuning into those whispers and trusting that they are something real, and then they get louder and they become more clear, and your knowing, when you know, becomes much clearer. And that is, I think, one of the most empowering things we can do, and I think it's something that we are all being called to do right now. So, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, where does this go?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, does anybody else want to comment on that, or I do think Tamara has spoken.
Laura has spoken.
Thank you. Tamara has spoken for us. I hope that gives you some insight. And I would say from that knowing that she's speaking about, that's when the shares can come. So you don't have to worry about what other people are thinking about it quite yet, because you're going to just know, and then it'll come, and then you'll share, and you'll know how to share it. Okay, we're going to take another question from here before I dive into something, because the next question is actually kind of big, and I'm not sure if we're going to have time for it. So, because we could go here all day. Is everybody enjoying this? Yes? Are you getting a lot of real juicy information? Thank you, everyone, for being so vulnerable to do this with us. Okay, anybody else have something specific that they would like to speak to, or am I going to dive right into the next question? I guess I am. Yeah, okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, can you point to something specific, or more than one thing, that will commonly lead to an interference in the body's ability to use its own healing intelligence? Yeah, I know. Tamara came up with these questions. This is a juicy one. Okay, and it doesn't have to be any particular order. We can actually, Okay, let's repeat the question. Okay. Can you point to something specific, or maybe more than one thing, that will commonly lead to an interference in the body's ability to use its own healing intelligence? I'm going to nominate Steve to speak to that first.
Well, I think those kind of basic things, the nutrition and elimination, the physical pathway stuff, obviously there's that. But like with Lyme in particular, I said this yesterday, you know, there's this emotional element. And so that's that would be my answer really is yeah, with more chronic, deeper illnesses that have developed over years and years, they're usually attached to your emotional body. And so that has to be addressed or you don't physically get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the emotional piece, and you really did speak about that yesterday. This darkness comes in, something comes in that is not really part of you, but it interferes in this flow of your own intelligence to deal with things, because I think we have these brilliant mechanisms. Our bodies are incredibly brilliant, and then connected with our energy field and our all the pieces, our spiritual, like everything that makes up what we are. If it's working in harmoniously, we can really easily clear out what doesn't need to be there, and we can thrive, and we can eat Doritos and our system can deal with it. We can have like a booze night and we can deal with it. Or whatever, yeah, Twinkies, it doesn't, like, our bodies can deal with any of this stuff. And then when are we eating Doritos in excess? Maybe because we are needing to fill a space that is there, a gap that we can't, somehow we can't otherwise fill, and this sense of nourishment and this intelligently crafted thing that has all the flavors that get your all your juices flowing and stuff, will do that for you on a certain level, make you feel okay for a little bit when you're not feeling okay, and fill the gap. And then you're eating too many Doritos and your system can't quite clear it out anymore. And so yeah, it's that piece of something got in on another level. And for some people, there can be traumas in childhood that then throw that off, and they're never quite able to get not never, it's possible, but it's about going back to that and dealing with it. So it's like my sense is that it is something on an energy level, maybe on an emotional level, rather than something on a physical level. And even if it is something on a physical level, like let's say you have a big physical trauma, and you end up, something really major happens to you, it's affecting you also emotionally and mentally, and that's a big piece that can interfere with the process as well. So.
Yeah, good questions. So one of the things that I'm really coming to understand is the importance of the nervous system in all healing. And nothing can happen without a healthy nervous system. And I think that, to me, the nervous system is, it's like a direct communication between our physical animal self and our spiritual divine self. It's our fire. We need to have our fire. Without our fire, then we don't know who we are. And our nerves are fire. It's like that animating, vivifying, life-sustaining force. And to me, if you look at yourself like you're a sacred journey, that you're a story being told by creation, you're beautiful. And your illnesses are sacred doorways that you can choose to move through. And with the help, and everything is relation. We're not supposed to heal ourselves in a way. We're supposed to heal in community. We're supposed to heal with the other. That's how we're made, right? And our nervous system is like, it's our communion with the other. It tells us so many things. It brings life or it shuts off life. So to me, it's like, when you come to these things, when there is a block, when there is something that you can't move through, no matter what it is, then that is where you need to gaze. And if you're not strong enough and you don't feel strong enough, it's absolutely okay. But when you just say, I cannot, and then you can go to the other and you can say, look, I cannot. And then the healer, the herbalist, the whomever will say, I will hold you so that you can, if you choose to. And I understand if you can't. Like this is a sacred journey, and we're writing the world, all of us together, right? And there's just think of that fire in us. It's everything. It is everything, And so it's like, that to me is like that. So that's how I would that's how I do approach it, right? Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Right? Yeah. So, what?
Oh, no, you, sorry, not you, you're doing great, thank you for
No,
that,
no.
beautiful.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone is saying the same thing. You've noticed that we're all saying the same thing, but with our own, because you're looking at stories here that have come to this. Exactly. But, and our own journeys, and that's who we all are, which is what makes this so beautiful. Like a healing path is beautiful, it's a spiritual path, right? And you get to move with it with someone else, and what an honor. What an honor. So that's what I have to say. I love this question. I love your questions. This is awesome. Thank you.
Do you need the question again?
No.
Can I ask for clarification, Monica?
Yes.
Does that mean the hindrance is the non-communicating anymore? The shutdown or the block? Is the hindrance of,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, but it is a doorway that for now is shut.
yeah.
And if you choose, and the way you approach it is the way that you can then open it.
Yep.
And it's uniquely yours.
Yep.
Right? And when you come to a healer, that's what they're
That's
they're
the-
respecting
that's when you
that.
start communicating.
Exactly. And then they're communicating with that in what they have, and you've come to them because of what they're holding. And then, it's like, here's a little, and I'm gonna walk with you on this journey that far. And then there's someone else who will then pick that up, right? Yeah.
Just the power of that compassionate witnessing
Yes.
is incredible.
Yeah.
Just to really
Take this
witness
microphone
somebody.
and
No, I know we don't have much time, so don't get me talking.
Why not?
All right. What other level can I add to what's been said? I would certainly say disconnection from nature. And where does that come from? Mind. And this is, it's not a blame thing. We live in a world, in a society that encourages us to dissociate, to live in this world of thoughts, and to not be in our bodies, to not be in our hearts, to not be on the land. And we have all these important things in our life that are just distractions. They're not really important. And they take us away from being where we really need to be, here, in this moment, on this land. And there's all the stories we create that go with it. There's the story that our society creates, and then there's how we each spin out in our own way within that story. And it's not real. What's real is right here now in this moment. And just leave it at that.
Oh, okay. I feel like so much has been said already. I definitely, that emotional bit of, what's too hard to carry on your own, and that beautiful idea of how can we carry it together, and not necessarily just with people, but with plants as well. So I think that surrendering to the idea that, there is a part of ourselves that needs to be held, like that little infant self that we always have, that is always requiring that holding and that input. And I think that feeling that how nature as our mother is always holding us. And I don't know, I find so many times when I'm in a process and I'm like, I don't know how to go through this, and then I go into the forest, and then something there will offer itself to me to hold me, I don't know how many times I've gone into the forest just, I don't know how to go on, rather than coming back with my shirt full of mushrooms, rapping like a little, like, okay, Chantel's have the answer. I'm gonna go home now. So I think sometimes, we can't carry this on our own, but the land has, I think going back into that question a little bit too about how the earth is making us and we're making the earth, and this give and take of how the plants are changing through our relationship. And I think that understanding of how interconnected that really is sometimes a bit that blocks us too, and just kind of having a bigger awareness of interconnection with the land and with other people, and this ancestral line of helpers that goes back to the beginning of time, where there's allies that are ready and prepared, and some of the medicines are so specific, it's just bizarre. You're like, how could that possibly be? That herb is so specific for that kind of hemorrhoid. And then I don't know, but it's true, and they're out there, and they're waiting for us. And we just have to find our path back into our intuition and our allowing of being held.
Oh, you wanna?
Yeah, I did, but
Yeah,
I
you
want you
go,
to hear
you
your
go.
words.
Well, you go and then I'll go. We have enough time. Yep. Okay.
Well, I just wanted to check in with you, and I know how I'm feeling. How, do you feel a shift amongst us all? Do you feel that there is like a softness, a silkiness, like something has opened and there's a potential there? Can you feel that potential, that something amazing has come in just through our experience together, and that opens something? Right?
Yeah.
And so what can come through now? This is delicious. Yeah? Right? Can we feel it? Can you feel it? And how, oh my gosh, anything can happen. Yeah.
Oh, yes, thank you for that. I guess the piece that came to mind as Blair was speaking was just, thinking about that ancestral piece in terms of when we're thinking about the essence of what somebody's health issue is. A lot of times we're carrying these themes that have gone back through generations. And you might be able to know about it because you might be able to look at, your parents or your living relatives and see the story and find the parallel pieces in your story and find the themes. This is part of, when I'm looking at astrology chart, this is part of what we'll often do. And I think there's something that's helpful to that because you recognize you're not the only one that's carrying it. It's not your fault, these kinds of things. Also that it brings a more of in a way, more of a sacredness to that. Like that theme has been carried and ancestors weren't able to fully get to it. And you were born and you're incarnate right now and you have the opportunity to address it. And maybe the situation in your life, the conditions are such that you have actually more opportunity than they did to deal with it. And when you deal with it, it shifts things, that energy clears and your family line doesn't carry it anymore. So you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your whole line. And they are with you also in that process, but are they with you supporting it? Or are they with you still some of those lingering bits of energy that they couldn't deal with that on some level are weighing you down, and it's on you to say, okay, thank you, it's time to go. So we all can be lighter and freer. But I think that's part of, for a lot of people, that's a big part of the essence of what's going on for them. So I just wanted to add that.
Yes.
And clearing that energy for those that come after us.
Exactly, exactly.
We're taking a chunk off it.
Or taking a chunk off it, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay,
No pressure.
wow, I think we're pretty much at time. And thank you, everybody, for being so attentive. I feel the energy of listening to every word of the wisdom that has been shared here. Thank you very much for all of that. And yeah, here we go into the rest of our day. Yes? What's that?
I think we need ohms.
Oh, do you want some ohms?
I would love some ohms. Anyone want ohms?
Okay, so I'm gonna actually just put this down so that we're not homing into the mic. I don't think we need to do that. Okay, 3 ohms, folks?
Yeah, 3.
3 ohms. Okay, ready?
Yeah, good start to the day. So just while I have everybody here, what did I want to say? Yeah, there's a line of flower essences that are on the table when you walk into the herb shack on the left, the little rounded wooden beautiful piece by the window. Where the first aid kits are, there's bug spray and stuff, and then there's this line of flower essences made by Claudia, Mayall's apothecary, and donated for people to sample. She's got a beautiful chart beside it that tells you what they can be associated with. They're all made from local wild plants here, and if you're feeling called to any of them or you want to check them out, you can sample them. And I think it probably says on the bottle how to work with them, but I mean, yeah, what I would suggest usually is just like a couple drops, and ideally in a little bit of water, and just take it and sit with it and see what it does for you. So please, if you're feeling drawn to that, you can check it out. Big thanks to Leanna for the brews last night. Anybody that got to taste them. And while we're applauding with gratitude, big thanks to the music, Chip and Selena and the brews that Leanna's brews are still, I believe they're still out there in the coffee section. So if you're feeling like you want to taste any of them today, yeah, I think they still can. Is that right, Leanna? Are you around? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if something has to happen to them.
Yeah.
They're there. I think she strained them and she, mixed them with bubbly water. You can also do that, and check them out if you haven't. They have all these different herbs in them. They all have different flavors, and they're mixed with honey, and they're lovely. So feel free to do that. And I think that's maybe all I have to say.
Where do we meet
Oh.
for the walk?
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll say that. And Bay, you have a question?
Just, there are lots of bandanas still. If you haven't dyed a bandana, please stop by, and it's free to do it, and you can do it anytime you have some free time.
Okay, yeah, check out Bay's and Christina's booth there if you haven't. There's bandana making and beautiful card making with natural inks and natural dyes, and so thank you. You are doing it again today.
Yeah.
I might get in on it then. I
Yes,
haven't yet.
there's lots.
All right. So yeah, make a bandana, leaf imprints, and with natural dye, and bring it home with you. Maybe you can imprint some of everything that's just come up here into that or into your card, right? Lots to make art about. And so thank you for that. For our next session, which is in about 20 minutes at 11 o'clock, we have the two groups, Buttercup and Lavender. So Buttercup with Lavender is going with Blair. Buttercup is going with Julie. So if you are Lavender, if you're going with Blair, you're going to meet under the willow tree that's just slightly down the hill in between the gardens. There's a big willow under the weeping willow. And if you're going with Julie for the plant attunement, you're going to be just over here by the picnic tables.
And
Okay.
bring a mug and
Bring a-
potentially something to lay on.
Yeah, bring a mug, and yeah, if you have a blanket or something,
Yeah.
you're going to be, that will work out well for you. There are cups if you need. Thanks, everybody.